delivery room. "Show me," she said instantly, holding her hand out for the test. "What's it say?" "Come on, Lil," I told myself, stomach still churning. "Look down. Get it over and done with, and then you can go to the pub with Jess and have a drink to celebrate. After that, no more sex. Never again. Not worth it. Not worth the hassle and the drama and this panic attack over the infinitesimally small chance you might be pregnant. I'd take a vow of celibacy and get a cat. I'd become a priest. I'd move to somewhere in the Far East, become a Buddhist and renounce all physical desires. I'd convert to asexualism. Just please, 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 God, if there is one, if you are there, I know I'm always asking you things and swearing I'll never ask again, but this time I really mean it. I promise I'll never ask anything trivial again if you grant me this one tiny wish. Please, can I not be pregnant?" I looked down at the stick. "Fuck," I said, looking at it, holding it out for Jess. No question about it. There were 2 little purple lines. I'm pregnant. Chapter 1. I'd rather have eaten my own foot than go on a date that night. The whole thing was Jess's idea. She said I needed to get back in the saddle. Hateful expression. I didn't feel like doing any sort of riding, thank you very much. But she'd insisted I download a dating app called Kindling, which is why I was now sitting on the bus, so nervous it felt like even my earlobes were sweating, on the way to some pub in Vauxhall to meet someone called Max. We hadn't been messaging for very long, so I knew almost nothing about him. Only that he was 34, had dark curly hair, and seemed less alarming than some of the other creatures I'd scrolled through. No. Maybe. No, definitely not. You're the sort of pervert who'd have a foot fetish. No. Yes! Hello, handsome, stubbly man who looks like a cross between a Jane Austen hero and Jack Sparrow the pirate. That was Max. He'd asked me out a couple of days after matching, saying he didn't believe in beating around the bush. I liked his straightforwardness. No messing about, no dick pics, just fancy a drink. I figured it was better to meet and see whether you got on with someone, rather than message for several weeks and paint a madly romantic picture of them in your head, then meet up and realise you'd got it wrong and in real life they were a psychopath. So, even though Max's question made me want to throw up with nerves, I'd agreed. A tiny, minuscule part of me knew Jess was right, knew that I had to make an effort. Otherwise I'd never get over Jake, the one I used to think was the one before he broke my heart into 70,000 pieces and turned me into a cynic who had bitter and self-pitying thoughts whenever I saw a couple holding hands on the tube. Jake and I had split 6 months earlier. He split up with me, I should say, if we're being totally accurate. It was after 8 years together, having met at uni. Various friends had started getting engaged, and, all right, I'd very occasionally allowed myself to think about what shape diamond Jake might buy for an engagement ring. But only once or twice, tops. Maybe 3 times. Tragic, I know. But in the absence of a ring, I was happy with Jake. I just wanted us, married or not. And I thought he did too. We used to fall asleep, making sure we were touching one another every night. My arm over his chest, or our feet touching, or holding hands. And if one of us woke in the night, and we'd moved apart, we'd reach out for the other one, so we could feel them there again. It was real. I knew it. Well, some clairvoyant I was. 6 months ago, Jake came home from his office to our flat in Angel and told me that he'd felt too settled, that he wanted more excitement. And as I sat at the kitchen table, crying, wondering whether I should offer to dress up as a sexy nun or be more enthusiastic about anal sex, he told me he was moving out to go and live with his friend Dave. It felt so sudden that I could only sit at the kitchen table, weeping, while Jake packed and left 10 minutes later with the overnight bag I'd bought him from John Lewis for his last birthday. With hindsight, not the sexiest purchase, but he'd said he loved it. It had a separate compartment for his wash bag. Practical, no? The Dave thing turned out to be a front for the fact that Jake had been shagging a 24-year-old called India from his office. Jess and I had devoted hours, whole days probably, to stalking her on all forms of social media. On Instagram, she was a blonde party girl who never seemed to wear a bra. On LinkedIn, her profile showed a more serious India, smiling in a collared shirt, blonde hair tied back in a smooth ponytail. It was also via LinkedIn that Jess and I discovered she'd only been working at Jake's law firm for 2 months before he left me. Quick work, I'd slurred, pissed, lying belly down on the floor of Jess's bedroom. We were stalking her on my laptop one evening. The next day I got an email from Jake. Lil.